Atomic Habits by James Clear completely changed my entire life. Back in 2019, my life and my business had hit a bit of a plateau. I kept pushing, but it just seemed that there was a ceiling that I just simply could not seem to break through in my personal life as well as in my business life. In the 3 years that would follow reading that book for the first time, I would move across the country from Minneapolis to Phoenix, Arizona, get engaged to the love of my life, more than triple the revenue of the social media marketing agency that I run with my business partner Derek, completely stop drinking alcohol to this day, and overall begin living a more purposeful and meaningful life. This amazing, life-changing book, Atomic Habits, will absolutely go down as one of the best self-development and personal development books ever written, and the market completely agrees with me. Since being released, it has climbed the charts and sat atop the New York Times bestseller list for years. It sold millions of copies worldwide, and it's a book that I insist on giving to anybody that I meet that's looking for ways to change their patterns, their habits, or drive impact or change in their life. The first time that I read Atomic Habits, I actually wasn't really ready for what it had to teach me. It was like a bright light being shown on all the flaws that suddenly I realized I needed to change, and I finally knew how to do so. I just wasn't ready yet. So the first time that I began reading it, I got a couple of chapters in and I put it back on the shelf. But I had read enough. The quotes that I'll bring up in this video ate away in the back of my mind, and without even realizing it subconsciously, I started changing my patterns. I started changing my decisions. I started doing better. It's my hope that in watching this video, if you've never read this amazing book, or maybe even if you have, it'll remind you or teach you some of James Clear's amazing learnings that just might have the same impact on your life. If you haven't already, now would be an amazing time to subscribe to the channel. If you're into anything related to health, wealth, or personal development, these are your people. That's what we talk about on this channel. So make sure to drop a subscribe and join the community. Let's jump into my 10 favorite quotes from James Clear's amazing, life-changing book, Atomic Habits. So the first quote is, "Every action you take is a vote for the type of person that you want to become." So for me, this is really when I stopped reading the book, because I realized that there was a lot of things that I was doing every day and a lot of actions that I was making that were actually voting for the exact opposite of the type of person that I really wanted to be. It was kind of funny. I had 90% of my life in check. I was doing all the right things when it came to my health and wellness, but I continued to drink a bunch of alcohol. And after reading this book, I realized that, hey, every time I have a drink of alcohol, it's actually voting for the opposite of the type of healthy, holistically well person that I really want to become. But I really wasn't ready to stop drinking, so I put the book back on the shelf. Later, when I picked the book back up again, I was ready to stop drinking, and I spent the last 3 years completely sober. Additionally, this quote really wasn't something that impacted me because the book hadn't been written yet, but I started a business with my business partner the better part of 7 years ago now, and I realized that I was really unhappy in my day job around the time that we started the business. And I realized that by going to work every day and continuing to go through the motions of a wage worker or an employee, I really wasn't accomplishing the type of life and vision that I envisioned for myself. I really wasn't fulfilling my full potential, and every time that I went and continued to collect that paycheck, I realized that it was actually voting to continue down that path versus a path of entrepreneurship that I really wanted to be able to achieve. Eventually, we did start our own business, and the habits that I started forming and the things that I began doing became votes for an entrepreneur lifestyle. I began doing the things that an entrepreneur would do, and every action that I took started taking us towards the point where we're at today. So needless to say, this quote impacted me a lot when I realized, looking back, that I really had the power to change myself, to really achieve the type of person that I wanted to become, because I had really already done it before. And there was only a couple of quick changes that I needed to make to really realize my full potential. After I did that, I felt like I had one hand freed from behind my back and really began seeing the massive results that I wanted to see in my life. Quote number 2, "You do not rise to the level of your goals, you fall to the level of your systems." This quote is very short and very, very punchy, because we all have goals, we all have dreams, we all have things that we want to do, but the reality is few of us actually take the time to implement a system or a repeatable process or a way where our default behavior becomes acting like the type of person that achieves those goals that they want. Think about people that want to get in shape. They want to start going to the gym early. Oftentimes, this requires making some sort of change in their daily routine or their system, and they fail to do so. They fail to begin waking up early. They fail to make it to the gym after work. Instead, what they could do to help achieve those goals, and what I've been successful at doing in my own life, is they could pack their gym clothes the night before, so that when they wake up and they hear their alarm, they've already gotten themselves in that mindset, the habit of getting up early and going to the gym. Or maybe they pack their clothes in the car with them so that as they leave the office or on the way home, they can go ahead and make sure that they stop by the gym. For me personally, what I do is I have a gym that's located right next to my office. I also chose an office that's located next to a bunch of healthy eating places. So it makes it much easier for me to make choices that lead towards the types of holistically well person that I want to become. I'm eliminating friction at all those different areas. And that's the makings of a really strong system. I remember in college, I had a really hard time waking up early. I noticed that I just couldn't break the habit of sleeping in and sleeping in and sleeping in. Didn't matter how many alarms I set, didn't matter what time I set that alarm clock for, I was gonna sleep in to the same time around 9 a.m. that I always slept in before. So what I began doing was I put the alarm clock across the room. And what ended up happening was I got up out of bed, I broke the pattern, I broke the routine of snoozing and sleeping in, and I began waking up early, and my marks in school began going up as a result. And I think James Clear's quote just does such an amazing job of encapsulating in simple terms the power of systems versus the nebulous factor of goals and dreams, which you'll never really achieve unless you actually create systems or processes to take you there. Quote number 3, you should be far more concerned with your current trajectory than your current results. Wow, this is such an amazing way of saying that everybody starts somewhere. In today's culture with Instagram, social media, all these visual platforms, it seems like everybody's winning and everybody's ahead of you. It can be really discouraging, especially if you're trying to start a new habit or change something about yourself. I know for me personally that comparing myself to others is something that I've done extensively in the past. But by focusing on your current trajectory and seeing the choices that you're actually making, it can be a lot more encouraging because your current results doesn't necessarily reflect your current trajectory. You could be at the very beginning of your journey. Maybe you're starting a business, maybe you're trying to lose some weight. We all know that the first couple times that you go and work out, you're not going to really see a massive reflection in the scale, but you're making new habits. The residual effect of those habits is eventually you're going to begin losing some weight. So focus on your current trajectory. Don't compare yourself to others. Don't rush through things. And instead of focusing on the end result, focus on the journey. Focus on having fun with it. Focus on the journey of self-improvement, and that trajectory will continue to move you closer and closer to those big goals and those big dreams that you have. Quote number 4, habits are the compound interest of self-improvement. Now, as I've been pontificating on the last 3 quotes, this really does a good job of summing it up. Good habits really add up, and your future results are dependent on your current habits. In fact, if you look at results, you can actually look back at all the choices that you make and the habits that you've had, and you can see exactly how you got where you're at today. The more you make good choices, the more those good choices are going to lead to creating good habits. The more you create good habits, the more they compound and the more they lead to good results in the end. This is especially true in the business that I started with my business partner, Derek. When we first got started, it seemed like nothing was happening. We were sending all these emails, we were reaching out to these businesses, trying to sell them social media services. And even though we closed our first client in 2 weeks for $3,000 per month, after that, it seemed like things really slowed down a little bit. But when we look back now, 7 years later, and we've got this 7-figure agency, we look back at all those emails that we sent, all those businesses that we contacted, the calls that we made, the networking events that we went to, the events that we went to, all these different things. And you can look back and be like, wow, all that added up, this incredible life that we've been able to achieve. You see that compound effect. It's just this residual effect that's just added up over time to something amazing. And it's really difficult to see that in the moment. But again, James Clear does such an amazing job of capturing this in one single quote. And it's so encouraging because I know that days that I personally don't really feel like working hard, I can think back on this quote and be like, you know what? This is all gonna add up one day. One day I'm gonna look back at this and I'm gonna say, I'm glad that I kept trucking, glad that I kept making the good choices because they added up to the results that I was able to achieve. Quote number 5, and this one really hits home after the last 4 that I just went over. Winners and losers have the same goals. Ouch, that stings. This is an absolute mic drop of a quote. And I remember the first time I read this, I was just like, oh my gosh, this guy's a genius. And the reality is it's true. Winners and losers have the exact same goals. And as somebody who teaches a course called the SMMA Blueprint on how to start, grow, and scale your own social media marketing agency, I see a lot of entrepreneurs come into our program. And it's very easy to tell if somebody's going to be successful in business or not based on the types of choices, the habits, if they're showing up in the private group, if they're asking questions, if they're engaging. You can see that they're setting up systems, they're creating choices, they're creating momentum in their business, and they're moving towards that win. Unfortunately, the ones that don't end up winning are the ones that fall short on actually creating those systems. They fall short on actually engaging, and they fall short on actually creating those habits that are going to lead them to their future success. There's really just no better way of saying it. Winners and losers have the same goals, and it's easy to see why one has success and one doesn't. Quote number 6, success is the product of daily habits, not once in a lifetime transformations. I can't think of a better example of this than New Year's resolutions. Every year, New Year's rolls around and people say, this is the year. I'm gonna make this massive change in my life. I'm gonna go from being completely unhealthy. I'm gonna go from making horrible financial decisions. I'm gonna go from doing everything wrong in my relationship or my marriage. And they expect that they're just gonna wake up on the first of the year and all of a sudden everything is gonna just be right in their life. The reality is, it might take that entire next year of work, of working on themselves, of making the right choices, of saying no to things that normally they would say yes to before, of orchestrating their life and orchestrating their environment to begin making those good choices and creating those good habits. Instead of that once in a lifetime transformation that happens on the first, people that are successful are the ones that are looking 30, 60, 90, 120 days, 12 months ahead. Those are the ones that have the foresight, that have the stick-to-itiveness, that are going to be successful in their goals because they're thinking of a 30, 60, 90, 120 day system. And as James Clear mentions earlier in the book, those systems are what lead you to success. A New Year's resolution and a goal is not going to make you successful. Making those sustained choices over time is going to make you successful. Derek and I didn't wake up one morning and say, hey, we're going to become 7-figure business owners today. It didn't just happen overnight. Rome wasn't built in a day. We got to where we're at today due to sustained choices that we made over the last 7 years. Now, granted, they were great choices, but we continued to make them again and again and again. One day we decided to start a business, but we needed to take action on that for 7 years to get to where we're at today. Quote number 7, professionals stick to the schedule, amateurs let life get in the way. This is something that we all see all day, every day. Maybe you have a friend at work who says that they wish that they could do something like get back in shape or maybe start a business. There's a trend that I've been seeing go around on Instagram that's talking about making promises to yourself. And for a lot of those folks, that promise is a change that they want to make in their life. And the analogy is really interesting to me because they say when your boss tells you to do something, you do it. When they say to be at work by this hour, you're there on time. But when it comes to making promises to ourselves, so many of us let life or excuses get in the way of that success. People that are really successful and hit the goals that they have in their life, they treat it like a business. They are a professional when it comes to it. People that really get in great shape at the gym, they treat it like a job. People that are successful with businesses and entrepreneurship, they treat it just like they treat their day job, and they do the thing as if they were going to work every single day at their day job until it becomes their day job. I just love this quote because it really is punchy, and it just makes so much sense when it comes to really setting goals for yourself and making sure that you achieve them. Operate like a professional, operate like a business, and you will hit those goals. Quote number 8, you don't have to be the victim of your environment. You can also be the architect of it. Now, I really love this because when I was in college and when I was in high school and actually after college as well, I had a lot of friends that honestly held me back quite a bit. I love them to death. I wish them well. I just don't see them all the time anymore. And it's because they honestly held me back for a really long time. I remember I was always trying to get into the gym. I remember I was trying to start a business. I was trying to hustle. I was trying to do these different things. And they'd always kind of laugh at me. They'd be like, why don't you just come and hang out with us like we always do? Why you always got to be going and doing this stuff and doing your own thing all the time? And they kind of talk crap a little bit. And that held me back for a really long time. And it really wasn't until I severed the ties with some of those relationships that I could really begin my glow up and really begin putting the pedal down on my life and my goals. Let me ask you a question. Let's say that you have a problem with video games. You can't stop playing video games. It's taking up all of your time. It's taking you away from your goals. Which environment do you think is going to lead to better results? Maybe going to a coffee shop where there is no Xbox or there is no PS5, or maybe unplugging your Xbox or PS5 and going and locking it in the trunk of your car, or giving it to your parents or a friend for safekeeping while you focus on yourself, or continue to have it there where you're tripping over it on your way to go and work on your goals every day and it's constantly looking at you, trying to distract you from what it is that you're trying to do. This is why it's so important that you architect your environment. If you look at the room that I'm sitting in right now, it is completely set up for what I'm doing and for running my business. It's for two things. It's for working on our agency and it's for shooting YouTube videos. It's completely set up for both of those. There's no other distractions in this entire room. When I'm in here, I'm completely centered. I'm completely present on the project or the task that it is I'm working on. There's all kinds of stuff that I like to do on the weekends. I like to go ride bikes. I like to go swimming. I like to be active. I like to spin vinyl records, but none of that's in here. This is a workspace. And when I'm in here, I'm completely centered on what it is that I'm working on, distraction free. How can you do the same in your environment? That's really what James Clear is getting at here, and it's been massively impactful in my own personal life. Quote number 9, and this one really stings. Some people spend their entire lives waiting for the right time to make an improvement. And honestly, it's just sad. Some people, they just never get to the point where they can actually take action on what it is they really want out of life or the improvements that they really want to make. Oftentimes I look back on the David of 3 years ago when I read this book cover to cover the first time, and I think about, hey, if that book hadn't come my way, if I hadn't read it and I hadn't made those changes, how would life be different? I'm sure that I still would be some measure of successful as I am today because I was a hard worker. I was having success in my business. I just don't think that it would have happened as fast, and I don't think that it would have been as dramatic in a short of amount of time. And I see so many people out there that just can't get out of their own head, and they just keep saying and making excuses that the time's not right, this, that, the other thing, and really those things are nothing but excuses standing in the way. When Derek and I started our business 7 years ago, nobody came and said, hey, now's the right time to start a business. Actually, it was quite the opposite. We didn't have enough money in savings. The companies we were working for were like being acquired. It was a total cluster. And honestly, it was almost like 6 months sooner than we had originally anticipated quitting our jobs or even being able to do so. But we took action and we said, hey, we can count on ourselves. Might not be the perfect time, but now is the time. And we never looked back. Quote number 10. And this is really adding up all of the last couple quotes that I went over. When scientists analyze people who appear to have tremendous self-control, it turns out these individuals aren't all that different from those that are struggling. Instead, disciplined people are better at structuring their lives in a way that does not require heroic willpower and self-control. In other words, they spend less time in tempting situations. So think about the stuff that I just went over. Think about the choices and the habits and the analogy that I made about gaming too much. All of those things add up to give you more willpower simply because you're not in an environment where you have to make changes. If you want to lose weight, get the Oreos out of the cupboard. If you want to eat healthy, locate yourself or have an office near healthy choices, or bring your lunch to work or wherever it is that you do. If you want to save money, pay yourself first and put your money in savings before you can spend it on Yeezys. These are massively, massively important things, and James Clear does an amazing job of making it so simple to understand, and I think this quote just does an amazing job of really summing up what Atomic Habits is. Make it easier on yourself. If you make the right choices, you achieve the right results. Why not set yourself up for success and look around your room or wherever it is that you're watching this video and ask yourself, hey, is this an environment that is leading me towards my goals? Are the choices I made today and this week and this month types of choices that are really going to lead me towards the type of person that I say that I want to be? I know for me personally, when I self-reflected the first time that I read this book, I almost felt guilty because I knew that I was selling myself so short from what I could actually become. And it turns out that I was right. Turns out that James Clear was right about everything as well. Easy to see why this book has been such an impactful book with over 1 million copies sold worldwide. I love to talk about it every chance that I get. I love to talk about quotes. I love to talk about how it's changed my life. I love to share this book with other people, which is exactly why I'm making this video. Speaking of habits, there's actually a habit that I cut out recently, which is drinking a ton of caffeine. It was an amazing choice that I made. I'm going to throw the video up on this video. You'll be able to click it on the screen in front of you. I encourage you to check that one out because that's an awesome habit that I made where I stopped drinking caffeine entirely. What are some habits that you could do without, or what are some choices that you're going to make? Let me know in the comments down below, and I really hope that you found this video useful. Let me know if you go and read Atomic Habits and it has the same impact as you, or let me know if you've read it and what some of your favorite quotes are. Hope to discuss with some of you in the comments down below. Thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.